Hey everyone, Brendan Snyder here. How are you? Thanks so much for joining me. So, we got a special one today. I've got Mike Tramp joining me. Thanks so much for being here, man.
I got nothing else to do tonight.
I love to hear that. But you actually do, in the sense that you got a new album coming out on August 23rd, Songs of White Lion, and it's volume two. So, I'd love to talk to you about that. And hopefully, we can dive into some other stuff if there's time as well.
Shoot ahead, man. I haven't even seen that CD you hold in your hand.
Really?
Oh, yeah, the vinyl too.
The
Now we're
vinyl too.
talking.
Look at those
Now
handsome
we're
guys.
talking.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
right.
official. There's no running away from it now.
Well, I gotta say that's one thing I actually liked about this release was that there were photos of you and the band in here today. It seems like there are so many releases that come out, no pictures of the bands. And as a physical music collector, and we were talking about this before we went live here, just about that idea of being part of the original rock and roll history. This used to be the only way to see who your band members were. So
There are no bands left.
that's true, right?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I don't know I don't know which angle to answer that from, but I mean, like I said before we started this interview, looking at your massive walls of CDs behind you, I have similar things with vinyl and stuff like that. And you know what? I might not even get a chance to listen to it all, but when I look at it, it's
Right,
kind of like saying I was there.
right,
I was there when it happened. And I've been building up the collection, and I tell you, many times I even go to a record store, whatever's left,
yeah,
and I buy an album
hmm,
and I just put it in there, but it's just really like it's without disrespect to anyone,
hmm,
it's just like going to church, regardless of how strong your faith is.
yeah,
It's just that you're there, you're part of it, and it feels good. And over a while, I collected a large amount of gin from around the world when I was touring. And it's not necessarily that I drink a lot of alcohol and stuff like that,
right,
but I made it a point that whenever I record an album, not record, listen to an album,
hmm,
and I know after 22 and a half minutes, I have to get up and
right,
flip it over.
yeah,
I I mix a drink and
right,
I sit in the chair and I leave the phone in another room and
hmm,
I enjoy that moment of saying, you know what? The world has taken so many valuable things away from my life and the
right.
world that I used to belong to. I want this moment for just me.
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying exactly. And I know a lot of music collectors like myself, people that are big fans of music, we feel the same way. You hit the nail on the head when you said, this is like a religion. And it's my huge passion to collect this stuff, to be in this, to be able to interview, to run the channel that I do that helps to get the music out there to people. And I can't imagine anything better than being within this world of it. So that's awesome. You've been in now going on what, 48 years? Started
Oh
back
yeah,
in
yeah, yeah,
76?
yeah. 48 years, man. When I joined my first band when I was 15 and a half years old,
Mhm.
not even finished school, not even wanting to be in a band, not even dreaming of you know going into the world that became my life and took over everything.
Yeah.
Um, 2 weeks were a long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I said to my mom, and I'm going to hang out with these guys, which were 10 years older than me.
Mhm.
I never came back.
Yeah, you've been doing it the whole time.
I'm
How
still
great
missing
is
in
that
action.
though? But that's really cool. I mean, I don't want to get off topic too much here, and we'll get
I
back to
know.
the
We
album.
just did.
Yeah, I know. But in that sense, when White Lion came to an end in 92, did you think it was all over at that point? Or did you, in your mind, because you had already been doing it for 10, 15 years at that point, say that, no, you're just going to continue on. You're just going to, as you did, you started Freak of Nature, but did you think about hanging it up at all?
Well, no, not. But let me use this opportunity since you asked that question. First of all, it was September 2nd, 1991.
Okay.
Um, and the thing was that there weren't really a big build up to this.
Hmm.
And 2 days before we played the final show, I had said to Vito, when we play Boston on September 2nd, it's going to be the final show. And I swear to God, and I tell to all your listeners and your viewers, there were no, please don't, Mike, don't come, stuff like Vito simply just looked at me peacefully or
Hmm.
as a friend, etc., and just said, okay. And when we parted ways in the airport on September 3rd,
Hmm.
we didn't speak for almost years
Wow.
after. And here's the key to it all. When people are commenting on interviews that I do on posts about this new album of these songs on my tours and so on. So there were nobody in the large White Lion family.
Hmm.
First of all, Vito, my songwriting partner, my band partner, the guy that I'd started the band with. But then there were management, then
Hmm.
there were record company, then there were publishers, then there were roadies, then there were the merchandising company, all people that were basically living off what we were doing.
Right.
I did not get a single phone call from anybody saying, are you sure about this?
Really.
How about, 2 weeks in Cancun, get a tan, come
Right.
back. Let's talk about, where we're going with the band.
Hmm.
I mean, if that in reality doesn't say it all, I mean, listen,
Yeah.
I'm the one who called it off. And
Right. Right.
that's typical me just saying, it's not speaking to me anymore. And it wasn't the music. It's just that, it was spineless at the end. There were no
Yeah.
fight, I mean, Vito and I, who had written these songs and who had started the band together,
Right.
we only spoke when we wrote songs,
Hmm.
which we did flawlessly without ever a single disagreement in our entire time together.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that Vito and I didn't were not agreeing on the band,
Hmm.
but the difference is, I'm a mountain climber. I'm an Iron Man. I challenge things and stuff like that.
Right.
And all the respect to Vito and stuff like that. Vito just simply just wanted to stay home and not engage in anything.
Mhm.
And bit by bit,
Right.
there were nothing. There
Right.
were nothing. And I was starting hanging out with new, people in the business in Los Angeles, not musicians, but new
Right.
people and talking. And I already were creating something new in my head. Hence, the day after I come back from Los Angeles, from the tour,
Hmm.
I've already formed Freak of Nature in my head
Yeah.
because I hit the ground running.
Well, and you've proven that certainly so far in your career. I mean, you've done 31 studio albums. Going back to Mabel, going back to the one album from Studs. Did Danish Lions ever put anything out, or is it just you remember this box set?
Well, let me see. No, but the second, yeah, right there, you have it. You're not just a pretty face, you're a true collector.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well,
There you go. There you go. That's
can you
that's
believe
the
that?
all those songs,
Yeah.
since you put all those songs
Hmm.
was the songs that Vito and I played together when we put the first sketch and draft together of what would become White Line in New York. Those were all the songs we played.
Starting off with Studs and Danish Lions, that material there.
That whole set list you just showed me right there
Yeah.
is the set.
Did any of the songs from that era get turned into White Lion songs?
No, except for El Salvador.
Except, okay, yeah, right. So on the idea of songs, and let's pull it back to the new release because I want to spend a little time on this. This is really good, and this one here blew me away. Absolutely loved the first one here, so I'm so glad you decided to make a second one. But What went through your mind, or how did you decide to select these tracks? I mean, the first one here predominantly, covers the hits and things like that. So you're diving deeper. Um, these just favorites of yours, or did anything else go into the idea behind choosing them?
A great question. I mean, you basically helped me along with the first one because it was sort of obvious that when I was going to do the first one, those were the songs.
Right.
Those were those classic songs that
It had to
that's
be.
going to be the no man. And I also want to just point out that when in reality I went in with Marcus, which I'd been working for a year of transcribing these songs to fit Mike Tramp
Right.
2022-23.
Which is
And we went in to do that. We did not have a plan on touring with this.
Yeah.
That this was actually going to be an entity that we would actually evolve with.
Right. Well, you went out and did an acoustic tour. I don't recall, was it solo, but then you later did it with the band? And so is it growing?
Well, the thing was, I mean, since 2013, I was basically touring the U.S. Every year when I released a new solo album, which would basically be almost a yearly.
Right.
And the thing was, it's a classic thing that I've almost said in every interview. The White Lion Ghost was just right behind me everywhere. Actually, most of the time it was in front of me and attached the logo to the poster. So as I'm coming there doing an intimate night with Mike Tramp, bit by bit, I see the faces in the crowd, and then I throw in Little Fighter, When the Children Cry, Broken Heart, and they're easy to do acoustic because they're interpretations of that. But the second you make them electrical, they can only be the original way, sort of.
Sure.
And then, I was speaking with Marcus because, I mean, every promoter said, "Oh, can you send me a video of you doing a White Lion song?" And I'm like, but it was never my plan.
Right.
My plan was never to revisit the thing that I'd already revisited, about sort of like 10 years prior to that.
Yeah, from 99.
Dude, there's no running away from you, man. I hope I never have to face you in court. So once we took it on, and once we went to the stage with the full band and stuff like that, it screamed exactly what was going to happen. And Marcus and I started, working on what it was going to be. And therefore, the second album would be sort of the darker side, or maybe the real side of White Lion, where Vito and I always wanted this band to be in the direction of Journey, Kansas, maybe even a little bit more progressive, regardless if, of course, we were very visible an 80s band. There, of course, talk about the look, the hair, etc. What in many ways described the 80s if you turned the volume down.
Sure.
So and so, but Lady of the Valley, Cry for Freedom, When the Children Cry, and then like Lights and Thunder, and some of those songs are not the songs. And I'm not dissing any band, but those are not the songs that on Slaughter albums or on Poison albums.
Lyrically,
this is where we wanted to go, and Vito and I, especially when we did Main Attraction, wanted to establish a main keyboard player, not an 80s keyboard player that stood up there with a little Casio and played pads, but somebody, reincarnation of John Lord, Steve Walsh, Kansas, the Greg Raleigh Journey, the main keyboard players that contributed to the band's sound. And with that, we would also, of course, take further and further steps away of the similarity to Van Halen with a blonde lead singer, regardless if of course I did not sound like David Roth at all, and of course the similarity to Vito and Eddie Van Halen. We wanted to go there and stuff like that. And so going in, doing the second album, yeah, we wanted to dive into to those big songs, and also some of the other songs like Road to Valhalla, Farewell to You, and of course El Salvador, which is a very unique White Lion track, and there's only one song like that in the entire 4-album White Lion catalog.
Right. We don't count the fifth one. Return of the Pride.
No, no, neither does the lawsuits.
Yeah. Since there's that topic there, I was curious in that the last time you went out on the road, you did it just under Mike Tramp performs the songs of White Lion, but this time you're going out as Mike Tramp's White Lion.
There is no way getting anything by you.
And I was just curious how that is. Is that I guess lawsuits and whatever that all been squared away?
No, no, not in that way. You know what the thing was? Like I said with the first album, maybe in reality, this was not a master plan.
Right.
This wasn't really something that I thought I was going to go out. Pretty soon you'll show me a bounce check I wrote. You know, but
I guess so.
In true rock and roll style,
right?
This is what the venues, this is what the booking agency wanted from the start.
Right.
But I had to take baby steps. I had to be comfortable with it.
Right.
I tell you what, many venues we had shown up with had already done it before I even said it.
Right. When you did this one, which I think was what, 2008, were you not?
Oh, you also have that one.
Oh yeah, I have them all. I have your entire solo catalog as well. If we hit on an album, I'm talking about it.
Yeah, man. Exactly.
But so I mean, when you did this one, do you feel you were sort of forced into it? Because as you mentioned, this is what promoters, this is what managers, this is what, quote, the fans, even though I kind of consider those the fair weather fans, I count myself as a diehard fan where I actually am a fan of you or your voice. I like that style. So whether you're singing the White Lion stuff or you're doing what I sort of call, and I mean no disrespect if this comes out wrong, but sort of the rootsy folk rock sound that you do through your solo material, I love hearing your voice. And so I've enjoyed the journey that you've taken me on, going from White Lion to Freaks of Nature into this solo material. And at this point now, coming back, I mean, this is still in the vein of the sort of rootsy folk rock, but you've rocked this up a bit. And I got to say, like Marcus Nan, your guitar player that you mentioned earlier that you brought in on this, is doing a phenomenal job with the guitar on it, to the point that, and again, I mean, this no disrespect, I don't miss Vito on these, right? Some of the other ones, when you did these here, there was a noticeable difference in that. Fine by me, but I mean, it wasn't that sound. Whereas this, you've kind of now come back 360 on it.
Well, you're an artist dream interviewer or stuff like that, because and it's not because you're sitting and praising me, but the point is that you're getting the point.
Mm-hmm.
And then so it's not really matter. So if you took both of your hands right now and you held up the Return of the Pride and Mike Tramp, remembering White Lion in one hand, then I can get a chance to defend myself.
Sure,
absolutely. Because I mean, yeah, by the time I do the Remembering White Lion, it just comes in as something out of the blue. I happen to be in Los Angeles.
Right.
This guy offers me the opportunity to go in there. It's right after I've just released my first solo album, Capricorn.
Yeah.
They offering me a nice little budget to do this record, and I'm so far away from White Lion.
Right.
Then I says, this would be an interesting way to go in.
Mm-hmm.
And reinterpret these songs just as an artist.
Yeah.
And so then I just ended up going in and doing that. When I listen back, there's a lot of things that I like, and there's also things that maybe I could hear that in reality, I'm not really focused on that. And this is a one-time album that I'm doing, and I'm not going to tour on it, and so on, so on, so.
I liked it in the sense that it wasn't just straight covers. You went in and you did something new. I own, the White Lion catalog. Let's just show those, right? So it's like I have these. I can go pull these out anytime I want. So when you did this was like hearing that stuff fresh for the first time. So I myself,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I don't think the majority of I don't know how many White Lion fans that were there when that album came out, or they were somewhere else in their life based upon
right.
that, we had basically ended, 8 years prior to that. So have careless,
Hmm.
having some fun with the songs. Kind of, you know what? It's kind of like just like you when you have had the same clothes on for the entire tour, and then the last show you just decide to go out and use jeans.
Right.
It's just, or not shave, or not even
Right.
style your hair or something. I think it's a reaction to me still not being far enough away from the original songs.
Right.
Then after that album, I
Hmm.
returned to do first my second solo album, Recovering the Wasted
Right.
Years,
Yeah.
and then More to Life Than This. And on when I was doing, More to Life Than This, and
Yeah.
I'm on a train in France doing a promotion tour, just playing all kinds of strange places, to people who in reality don't even connect me to White Lion.
Hmm.
But then there is someone, saying, "Ah, man, if you put a new version of White Lion together,
Hmm.
you'd be going out there playing festivals instead of playing for 35 people in the clubs."
Hmm.
And I guess in reality, at that moment, I surrendered.
Yeah. You thought, why not? Right.
I surrendered.
Hmm.
Okay. And I started looking at, and bit by bit and bit, and shortly I'd gone over to Indonesia.
Hmm.
I'd gotten an offer to play, because I'd found out that White Line were enormous over there. And I went over there with 3 Australians and
Hmm.
played 5 stadium shows, anywhere from 50 to 80,000 people, walking out on stage again and hearing these fans singing these songs. And I got completely thrown off my, like you said, rootsy track that I was actually on the path of. I'm leaning up against my heroes,
Hmm.
Springsteen, Dylan, Neil Young, Petty. That's who I am
Hmm.
as an artist when you take everything away. That's how I faced Vito when I sat in front of me. That's
Hmm.
what I came to the table with in the songwriting.
Right.
And then after those Indonesian shows, I tasted blood and started speaking to friends in America, and we started putting this band together. And then we started going out and touring in America, and then we
Right.
came back and played a um,
You did.
a big a German festival, and
Right.
and 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 suddenly it was like, wow,
Yeah. There you
exactly,
go.
bang your head, exactly.
Right.
And then I start thinking, okay. And then I started writing, Return of the Pride, and halfway through that,
Hmm.
I get contacted by an attorney in America saying the trademark is up for grabs. I've trademarked it. You own White Lion. I mean, I was always under the impression that I was White Lion together with Vito, and that I'd started this band. I
Hmm.
mean, of course, but I hadn't thought about it when it was closed down to sort of, turn off the water and the gas pipes and everything. It was just still burning,
Yeah.
but it wasn't.
Yeah.
Some something had happened, and eventually Vito owned the name.
Hmm.
Vito owned the name of the band we started together.
Without
And
you.
since the day,
That,
and since the day White Lion had ended,
mm,
Vito had basically not been back on stage. He'd
right.
not been in the studio. He hadn't done anything. Nobody heard from him.
Right. You've kept the band name
So,
alive.
so
Yeah.
well, I kind of feel I do because
Yeah.
I wasn't even with Freak of Nature and with the Soul album. There was no place that I went without the band
Without
or the
what I
band
wanted to
name
do.
being
Yeah.
attached to me. Mike Tramp's new Soul album, Mike Tramp from White Line.
Right.
So once we released the return of the Pride album, I went hardcore. I went in and trying to sort of, make the second Pride album. I mean,
Mhm.
I try to use as much of the memories that was there,
Sure.
but it ended up in court and so on. So and we were scheduled to go on tour with Rat and Poison.
Ah, yeah. That would have been amazing.
So it sort of all fell apart,
Yeah.
and I pulled the plug. Now, when I woke up from my sleeping beauty
Mhm.
sleep, and I looked back with fresh eyes, with Monday morning quarterback a year later,
Mhm.
I could see number one, I wasn't starting a new White Line. I was starting a brand new band. I was doing a sound that doesn't had anything to do with White Lion.
Mhm.
I actually didn't want to do White Lion, but using the name was the name that opened the doors.
Right.
I would rather have come back calling the band Return of the Pride.
That'd be a
But
great
nobody
name.
cares about that. They wanted the White Lion name and the logo.
Right.
So, in reality, from 2009
Mhm.
and up to 2022, I went back on my original plan of
Mhm.
being a soul artist,
Yeah.
not touching White Line, but on every album and on every tour, the ghost came back,
Right.
came, you know.
You feel more comfortable with it now at this point,
So
having
now, so yeah, the reason why I feel I'm comfortable with it is that my return to these songs and me performing is that it has to represent
Mhm.
Mike Tramp today, now 63 years old.
Mhm.
My voice is, of course, it changed, and I
Right.
call myself a grown-up man. So when you refer to my soul albums and the blues, folky rock and stuff like that, I wanted I wanted it to sound like the storyteller was coming back from the sailing in the seven seas with
Yeah.
all the trophies and all the storms and the dragons and everything that he had seen, and now all that comes out in singing the songs again.
Mhm. Right.
You know, a lot of my heroes, based upon their biographies and based upon the story of those bands, seem to get it right the first time they went into the studio and sang the songs. When I listen back,
Mhm.
I've written some great songs with Vito that will be an eternity in rock and roll. But when I listen back, I hear a guy, a
Mhm.
young man that is still searching for his own identity.
Mhm.
So a lot of the stuff that I'm going into doing, some of it is complete. I'm not aware what I'm doing. And some of it is searching for who am I as a singer?
Mhm.
When I wrote Broken Heart with Vito would be the sort of the highest vocal part in my career that I would do. I would not be able to sustain that for very long.
Right.
And I think that you definitely hear on Main Attraction that my voice is finding a different place where I want to be.
Absolutely.
And of course, on Freak of Nature, it is crystal clear that that's not the same guy who sings Wait and Broken Heart.
Right. And so with these songs, like on the first one where you did, your biggest hit, which went to number 3 on the Billboard charts, "When the Children Cry," there's a piano interpretation of it on here. So is that a version of the song that I don't know, that you maybe wanted to do back then that labels wouldn't let you do, or is that something that's just morphed into it that you thought this would be a new way to sort of shine a light on it?
No, not at all. I think it was, I mean, during my whole solo career, many times I'd done that song with the piano and stuff like that.
Mhm,
But Vito's nylon string, or not nylon string, Vito's guitar picking in that song
mhm.
basically belongs to him.
I see.
And that raw version, which the original When the Children Cry also is,
Right.
sort of just needs to stand by itself. And I thought that the song could could definitely, be performed with the piano and have the same message, and also show that, okay, this is where he is right now. Mike Tramp is sitting in the back of a restaurant performing the song while people are eating, sort of looking into the next chapter of my life when I'm not on stage anymore, you know,
Right.
flashing the stuff, but performing the songs in different ways.
And you've done two Danish albums in your native language. And so I've got this one here, but when will you make another English speaking album for the rest of
Do you want me to send you the other album, Danish album?
Yeah, I know. I need that one.
Okay, we'll hook up. Of course, you know, right behind me is my studio. I have already basically, I'm close to completing the next English solo album.
That's the best news
You
I
know,
can
and
hear.
and of course, the thing is that with the Danish album, with the Songs of White Line Volume 1 and 2,
Right.
and with the new English solo album, what it does is just there are three different areas that I like to visit.
Sure.
And I think, in lack of better excuses, doing the Songs of White Lion basically tells, or I wanted to tell people, that if you see Mike Tramp solo on tour or with his solo Band of Brothers,
Right.
do not expect
Right.
White Lion songs.
Right. Absolutely.
And with me doing the two albums in my native language was also kind of to cover a lot of songs that I've written piano wise that needs to be a completely different place.
Mhm.
So when you go to one place, it takes a break from another, and when you return to that, you're recharged and you're not tired of singing Wait.
Absolutely. You got to recharge the batteries every so often. Any possibility of ever re-recording those in English though?
You know what? There are.
Or they're like that's a moment for you. That's a thing like you're talking about. It's a different entity, so it wouldn't want to change.
It's not a pro. I mean, first of all, the two albums in Danish was also the first time in my career that I've written music to pre-written lyrics by my biographer
Oh,
and one of my best friends. Those two albums about my childhood and growing up in the early years of 60s and 70s in Denmark,
mhm.
just like my biography, even though of course there's a chapter of White Line, but it's so much about where I came from and how I grew up and how the state of the country were in that way.
Yeah.
You can't really translate them just word by word to English.
Yeah.
It's definitely something that's sitting in the back of my head. I don't know what part of the back of my head that maybe I could do.
Mhm.
And it probably will be something that where in the future I'm probably leaning at my solo albums will be albums that I will release myself
Mhm.
completely. I mean, nobody has ever had any influence on my solo albums. I mean, it's if you're talking about dictatorship, I mean, this is maximum. Um,
You've
so
on Target.
Therefore, in my studio redoing those things, I'm able to do that and release them in a limited edition, or something like that for diehard collectors like you. It's so and so.
Had to get that one. But with
You
that,
know,
you spent a long time on Target Records releasing your solo stuff, and I noticed that the two songs for White Lion are on Frontiers. Is there any
yeah.
particular reason you use that
Well,
one?
I mean, Frontiers is a worldwide label that I'm not going to say specialized, but lives and die for that kind of hard rock.
Absolutely.
So, it was always going to be that if I was going to be doing any wide line, it would be via Frontiers.
Yeah, and I definitely think they've got the support and the structure, and as you said, they live and die by it, so they are going to push it. You don't have
I
to.
mean, it's as simple as that. It's again, it's like
Right.
just finding, a home for the right product.
Yeah. And then as we start to wrap this up here, because I know you got other places to be, but I noticed there are no songs from Big Game on the second volume here. But my favorite album, Main Attraction, you put 5 on. So I lucked out. I feel like I won, but I was curious. Any particular reason, or again, just once you chose the songs, you hit the limit, and there wasn't room for one from Big Game.
So you're not gonna be like the rest asking me. So is it going to be a volume 3?
Oh, I was getting there. Only because I love them so much that I would take a volume 3, but I'll take that a step further because the question I was going to ask is, are you going to record all the songs so that you can release Pride re-recorded, Big Game re-recorded, and do it that way, like a box set,
Man, that's a great idea.
right? I think that would be awesome.
You know what? And listen again to your listeners and your viewers and stuff like that. Yeah, when we were putting that album together, we were going back and forth between songs and stuff like that. And because I wasn't going to do it on this album, that's not to say that if I was to do a volume 3, then we would probably dive in. I would say, without spilling the beans too much, that we would probably dive deep into the dark stuff of Fight to Survive, and the same thing on Big Game. It's
Yeah.
obvious, and you know what? We're not doing this, and I have a feeling it probably will come up. I'm not doing this to spite Vito in any form or matter.
No, no, of course not.
But you know what? I'm living my life now.
Hmm.
And I wrote these songs with Vito. Okay. Vito will not be back on stage. Vito will not be back in the studio for how long has it been since 91? 33 years?
Yeah.
For 33 years. And I'm saying this from my heart. And Vito calls me his friend, and I call Vito my friend. But I'm still saying this because I'm just tired of fucking defending myself.
Right.
And after that, you can call Gene and Paul. You know what? Not once has he ever mentioned, even in just a thought, that maybe we could do something together, because there will not be a wide line reunion. If there should have been a wide line reunion, it would have been 20 years ago. There will not be a wide line reunion, and it's not because of me.
No, of course not.
Okay, not because of me. But you know what? My door has been opened.
Yeah. I mean,
every single day. I'd be writing songs with Vito for a special project if you wanted and stuff like that. But I'm just sick and fucking tired of having to apologize for being alive and going out and meeting and talking to the fans and playing the songs I wrote.
Well, exactly. And you shouldn't have to apologize for doing that. You're the one who's taken those songs.
No, but that's just the bitterness in this fucking business.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you. As we wrap up here, though, I did want to say or ask you, out of all your solo albums, so not the White Lion, not the songs for White Lion, stuff like that, what is your favorite solo album for someone who's watching this that maybe only knows the White Lion stuff and wanted to get into your solo stuff? Which album would you suggest? And My personal favorite is Nomad. I love this album from 2015. You saw that I've got all of them. And, I would have gone back and picked something earlier, but that's the one that speaks to me. And I was just curious if you've got one that really stands out for you that you might tell people to start with.
Well, I mean, the thing was that after my first three solo albums, and I took that big break from White Lion,
Right.
Capricorn, Recovering the Wasted Years, and More Life Than This. When I then returned with Cobblestone Street in 2012 through 2013, I
Right.
can't remember what year it was. That is sort of me really starting from scratch. I mean, that's almost a full acoustic album.
Right. Yeah, that was very different than these first four that you just mentioned that you started with.
Yeah.
You came out, you were still kind of doing the rock sort of mix that was within those, and then you came in into that more rootsy.
Yeah, I sort of just want to I sort of being reborn in
Yeah.
many ways, and then just starting with Cobblestone Street is the foundation to my songwriting, is the foundation to everything that I am. That's how I learned to play acoustic guitar around the campfire and entertaining and singing along with the rest of the class and the youth club and stuff like that. So that is the foundation to all my Tramp songwriting, no matter where it is.
Yeah.
I'm particularly fond of Museum, which would be the album that came after that, because that's also a semi acoustic album that I'm basically just almost playing everything myself together with my co-producer and engineer Sean Anderson. So I'm experimenting a little bit with that, and that's nice to do that when you have done that. When I then come with Nomad
Right.
and the albums to follow there, I cement my style permanently on those albums. You know, maybe Tomorrow After That, and then Stray from the Flock, and the album and things like that. Stuff like that. So this is you could those last three albums would be a phenomenal place to dive into.
Absolutely. And then just as a best of, if people want to know, there's this one here, which is Everything Is All Right, which is one new song that you did. You actually did that, I think, for the Eurovision contest, right?
Yeah, without dancing.
Yeah, good, good. But it's a great single disc collection that spans your whole career back from your solo, I mean, from Capricorn going forward. And it's got the song Cobblestone Street on here, which has got such a great story within it about your life.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing is, because they were limited released,
Mhm.
and they were hard to get in the States, and I know that a lot of Americans are not fond with the ordering something from Europe and stuff like that. Now I experienced on the last Songs of White Lion tour,
Mhm.
people waiting, outside the venue or meeting me at soundcheck, says, but of course you are going to do some songs from your solo career. And I go, come on, man. I'm fine with the White Lion songs. And now you ask that. But as I'm doing the Songs of White Lion shows,
Mhm.
more and more people will now be aware of the solo albums, and it will build up that I will be doing, eventually wanting to tour around, probably on a different level, because they will not pay me as much once they cannot attach the White Lion name to the shows, and I will, of course, will make sure that they cannot, because it defeats the purpose.
Right.
So what I think you and I need to do is that we need to do this interview with the solo albums, and
Well,
I'm up for that any moment you want to do it. You can
I'll
reach out
reschedule
to me.
something. Yeah, no, that would be
Okay.
fantastic. So, all right, that sounds like a great place to end it there, and we'll pick up another time doing that, because I'd love to dive deeper into that whole side of things. I had a whole slew of questions just based on
Yeah,
your
yeah.
that we could get
Are
into.
you gonna manage to come to see any of the shows on this tour? Do we play anywhere near you, or you are in Alaska?
No, I'm in New Jersey, so I do think you hit somewhere over here.
We're doing two New Jersey shows, so that should definitely be it.
Well, I did look into the private house performance.
You're the right guy for that, man.
I
Oh,
am
yeah.
so close to this. I'm just like, oh my God, I would love to have this happen. So I contacted your booking agents and got some numbers, and I'm seriously considering it. And I was asking them about, having you do it around a local show that you would do. And they gave me the September 25th. So I think you're playing somewhere here in the New Jersey area at that time. And yeah,
We're
either
playing
way,
26. Well, I know we're playing 26 and 27 in New Jersey because we're actually doing an in-house show on the 24th somewhere around Maryland and stuff like that. So it's on the way from Florida, Jersey. We had a couple of empty dates we couldn't fill because this tour is a large tour, much larger than most bands like me tour on because it requires a lot and it's really strenuous. So we just wanted to offer this.
it's
If
such a
not,
cool venue.
maybe wait for the solo tour to come around or whatever. But it
Yeah.
would be cool to hook up.
Absolutely. I know I would love to. And I was going to suggest that as a whole separate thing potentially. But if you were doing a show, come meet up with you backstage, interview you that way with the band. If it were okay, film 15, 20-second increments of things to put into it as a whole to sort of promote, the
Yeah.
tour, the show, and what you're doing. So if that's something you'd be interested, I would love to come out, meet up, and do something like that. So we'll certainly talk about it. But we'll wrap things up there.
You
And
got it, bro.
thanks for everyone watching here. Certainly mark your calendars, August 23rd for Songs of White Lion Volume 2 out by Frontiers Records. And thanks again, Mike, for taking the time out to talk about all things Mike Tramp here on this. We got to get in nice and deep, and it was a lot of fun.
Thank you much, man. It's been my pleasure. I wish I was doing more of those kind of interviews.
Yeah, absolutely. All right,
Thank
everyone,
you, buddy. Thank you.
sign off here. Bye-bye.
Bye.